What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about if the Court of Owls are still the main villains of the next Batman game or of the new Batman game. Now, as I say, in all these videos, we're very, very close. I know some people may think that Tuesday could be the day. I've seen it. Obviously, I think everybody is running with that Tuesday could be the day that we get Batman. Tomorrow, actually, we're going to have a video where I predict what that game is going to be. I will tell you, in case there's just lots of people wondering, I personally do not believe it's going to be there. I do not think that Batman is going to be the game revealed this Tuesday. I will give you all the reasons in tomorrow's video, so make sure you check that out. Again, it's just my own personal opinion. I know many people will say, well, you've been wrong before, so I don't trust you now. It's totally cool. I get it, but that's just my opinion for all those people that are wondering. I do want to clarify that. So, and we talked about what we could see one day, in the next 30 years when we actually get the announcement of this game. From a trailer to gameplay to whatever. But the question remains, who's the villain? Who's the primary villain? Well, obviously we know that it's gone through quite a lot of ups and downs in terms of the leaks, right? And from what people had thought originally this game was going to be to what it is now, a lot of things. And, when the game does get announced, we're going to find out who was right all along, who was wrong all along, who was maybe onto something, all that kind of stuff, right? We're going to eventually figure it out. I truly do believe the Court of Owls are still the primary villains of this game. And why do I say that? Well, because I will give you this. It's been so long since anybody's really talked about it. We've seen a lot of leaks talk about who the villains will be in this game. In fact, I believe, even in that leak we talked about last time, I don't even think the Court of Owls were mentioned. But the Court of Owls, I still do. Remember, beware the Court of Owls. Remember the t-shirt or whatever it was, the jacket that had the Court of Owls symbol printed on the back. I mean, these are things, again, over the last couple years. Now, again, the thing to drive home the hardest is that this game didn't just start being made like a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. It didn't get made back in October when the announcement of that Damian Wayne, the Batman Beyond game, basically, that game got canceled. That's not when it started. It started many years before then. That's just when we heard about the cancellation of that game. So it's very, very important to think about because, well, why is it important? Well, because of this. Because this game has been in the works for multiple years. And again, the Beware the Court of Owls, Capture the Night, the picture of the Court of Owls, all that, and also, just to throw in there had been major leaks that the Court of Owls and also the League of Assassins would be like the primary villains of this game. So it's not like it's never been mentioned before. It has. And we've talked about it. It's been actually quite a long time since we talked about it. I love the idea of that. The Court of Owls. Now, and you guys know me by now, right? I don't really read the comics. I'm not like hugely into it, right? But before I made this video, I did look into like the wiki of the Court of Owls in terms of like their origins, in terms of the times they've appeared in comics, even in different shows and movies that they've done for Batman. They seem very, very cool. And again, the potential is very big. Now remember, the early leaks for this game, I believe, were that the Court of Owls knows who Batman is, and they always have the one up on him, and eventually Joker is actually going to be like a friend, like a frenemy to Batman, and end up helping Batman out against the Court of Owls because they're becoming too powerful. Joker doesn't like it. He wants the power for himself, and that he ends up helping Batman out like later on in the game. Now, that was a while ago. That was a very, very long time ago. Could that be changed? Well, it could, but I mean, if that is the basic story of the game, I don't really see why or how it would be changed all this time later. If you're going to have the Court of Owls as the primary villain, you're going to have them, right? You're not going to change it over the last year or two. Now, again, the villain idea, the idea of having these villains is a tricky thing because you need to balance it like we've always said. I feel you can't have these villains that we've already had, the main villains. You can't have them be in that main role. I really do feel like you should try something else. You need to insert somebody else in there. And also, by the way, it's a good opportunity, and it's what we've always talked about, what I've always talked about with Scarecrow. I love the idea of having Scarecrow as the main villain, not just because Scarecrow's cool, not just because he looked absolutely amazing in Arkham Knight, like the first time we actually saw him, right? Like visually, graphically, like his costume design, all that kind of stuff. He looked incredible. But it gives the chance for these villains that we don't know all that much about, or they're not normally given, right, the center role in these things. It's normally like in terms of the games, it's always Joker, but it gives them a chance to step up and do something. And again, like the Court of Owls, like me, I didn't know them. I still don't. I would say I don't know much about them. I think a lot of people wouldn't know that much about them. Now, again, do you fill stuff stuff around them with villains that we are all like pretty much aware of. Yeah, and then also you throw in some miscellaneous, some ones that we've never even heard before. You throw them in as well. But I really do believe that the Court of Owls makes a really good choice. It makes for a dynamic story. I was reading there is like a line of the comics where Bruce Wayne like blames them for the death of his parents. So if they want, I mean, it is a reboot, right? They're reimagining it. They're starting over again. Not that I want to be told that his parents are dead again, because we've been told about 500 times. Not that I want that, but if they wanted to go that route, they could blame the Court of Owls for that, right? And that would give Batman something there. They could do a lot of different things. I will say this, it makes sense for a lot of different reasons. It's dynamic, right? It changes really the dynamic of the story. You have this organization that's kind of like in the shadows, right? That's like very quiet, but they're kind of like known everywhere, right? They have like deep, like entrenched roots in like the build, like that really a foundation of Gotham. They're very, very powerful. They have a lot of connections. So all that, I mean, that makes for a very interesting story where they can always have the one up on you, and they always feel very menacing, very powerful, kind of even like very scary, right? They'll always have that, but also they have those talons, right? They're kind of like minions, and I was even reading somewhere where some of them, like, they could even have like supernatural abilities where there's like a chemical that can bring them back to life or can like heal a wound. So they literally are already playing around, like even in that line of thinking, they're already playing around with like a video game, you know what I mean? Like a video game kind of adaptation. Think about what we've gotten from the Arkham games so far. I mean, like the chemical that Joker used and all that kind of stuff. Like, it actually works really well, and it works even from a gaming perspective where you have the higher up, you have the villain, right? You have the Court of Owls, but then you also have their minions, these people that are trained in hand-to-hand combat, and those are the grunts. Those are the people that will be fighting as Batman throughout the game on building tops, on the street, you know, in different missions, like stuff like, I mean, obviously that's not exactly the way it would be, right? But think of it along those lines. I think now again, could you argue that everybody has that? Yeah, like they give Penguin his own squad, they give Two-Face his own squad, they give Joker his own squad. Like everybody, no matter who you are, I guess not necessarily, but most of them get their own like group of individuals, right, that are like protecting them. Some of the side villains that we got to face in like Arkham City, Arkham Knight, like things like that, some of them obviously they were just kind of one-offs, right? It was only them we had to deal with. And again, like I've said, I like that. I like that blend. I think you need that kind of blend. That's why I want villains we've never seen before that are kind of like one-offs, and I want villains that we have seen before that can be reimagined here. But again, even from like a base video game perspective, they like even like the League of Assassins, right? Like literally there's Ra's al Ghul, and then there's like the people beneath him, right? So a lot of superhero villains in general do have their minions, their armies. It's not like, oh my god, these are the Court of Owls is like the perfect choice because they're the only ones that have this kind of like setup, like this structure. No, but they are structured in the way that you could imagine it working for the game, right? You'd have the primary baddies, you'd have the primary people you're going against, but also you have all of their minions that you can weave into the story. If you want to go a little supernatural, a little bit more like, again, like with the, now would you want to repeat the whole chemical thing, all that kind of stuff you did in like Arkham Asylum and City? Maybe not. You probably actually, I would say you don't want to do that, but you have the option if you wanted to, right? So I think the potential is endless. I think it's very, very likely, if not guaranteed, that the Court of Owls will because again, all this stuff, all this talk about the Court of Owls just in general, all happen when they're making the game. It's not like it happened 10 years later. It's not like it happened 6 years ago and it had to be canceled and had to be rebooted. No, this is stuff that they were promoting, they were talking about while they're making the game, as in to give you a little wink, like nod, that like, hey, this, like, they're gonna be in it. Now, will they be the primary villain? They were always talked about as the primary villain. It'll be interesting to see if there is, right? Because again, there is like that dynamic there where was there a primary villain of Arkham Knight? Now, I get Origins. Well, I guess even Origins, right? It was like, that was kind of like a really different thing where you think it's Black Mask, but then it becomes Joker. But I would say overall, it's kind of a pretty structured, there is an overall bad guy. Arkham Knight, could you make that argument, though? Like, there is Scarecrow. Going into that, you would have said Scarecrow is the main villain. But then when you get into the game, you realize, well, also you have to think, what's the game called? Arkham Knight. So the Arkham Knight is also a villain, and you have to learn about his story and who he really is. So you have him now, so it's not just Scarecrow. And then you also have Joker, who, in my opinion, like I've said, really does, in my opinion, even though he's dead, he becomes the main villain. By the second half of the game, I would say Joker is the primary villain. I'll die on that hill. I think Joker is the primary villain of Arkham Knight, at least the second second half of that game. So it's also possible that they do a little like a prank on us, right? That maybe we go in thinking the Court of Owls is something, and then they pull, because even these guys, even Warner Bros. Montreal, they have a history of messing with us, right? With Black Mask and with Joker, they have a history of pulling the rug for now. Again, if people called that, which people did call that, maybe it'll be obvious going into it, but they do have a history of, I guess, not necessarily lying to us, because game developers do that all the time to kind of hide, secrets of their game, which is understandable, but they do have a history of hiding things or of making it seem like it's one thing to then have it be something else. So I would say going in, I do think the Court of Owls will have a really, really big part of it. Does that change? Is that purposely misleading us, right, for like some sort of reason? It's possible, and you know what? Again, like I say with a lot of these things, it's going to be really fun when we get the trailer, when we get the gameplay, when we get like the synopsis, when we know what we're doing with this game. It's going to be really fun to have, like, we're going to be able to have these discussions. Is the Court of, like, will there be, that kind of pull under the rug thing where there is another villain, all that kind of stuff. I'm very excited to have those kind of discussions with you guys, and again, we're so close. We are so close to being able to talk about all this really, really fun stuff. I think all this stuff that I talked about for the last year has been really fun, but we are very, very close to talking about even more, which I'm very, very excited for. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Who's going to be the main villain? Do you think it's the Court of Owls? Do you think it's going to be like an Arkham Knight thing where it's a couple main villains, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. And thank you so much for watching. Again, tomorrow I'll talk about what I do think Tuesday's game reveal will be. I mean, if it is Batman, by the way, I mean, obviously we will cover it, and that would be the biggest Tuesday of my life, just in general. So I'll definitely be watching it. We'll have a video talking about whatever it is, and I guess keep your eyes peeled, because if it does happen, obviously we're going to cover it no matter what. But Tuesday could be the day. I don't think it's going to be the day, but it could be, okay? I'll leave it by saying that, okay? Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.